Hi all, in this video let's learn about JavaScript interview question, that is writing a polyfill for the reduce function. So before understanding what is this reduce function, so I have done a dedicated video on understanding the reduce function in JavaScript. So I will keep this at the end cards. Please try to see this first, okay? Then you can understand what is the reduce function, okay? Now let's start writing the polyfill for the reduce function. So now what is this polyfill? Polyfill means, so you're writing a piece of code, a modern code, and you're expecting that code should be working in the older browsers also. So if you have a piece of code which is having the modern features like arrow functions like this, so these things may not work in the older browsers. Polyfill means you're writing some piece of code such that this will be running in the old browsers as well. So that is a polyfill. Now let's understand what is this reduce function. So reduce function means, so this is a reduce function. You'll be having an array. You are applying the reduce function on this array. It means to each and every item in this array, this callback function would be executed. Okay, this callback would be executed. And here accumulator, first parameter is the accumulator, and second one is a current item. So this is a current item, and this 0 is the initial value. So all these things, if you pass this initial value, what happens? If you not pass this initial value, what happens? All these things I've explained in this video, so it's better watch this video first, so you'll be getting a clear understanding on this. Now here what we are doing is we are summing up of these numbers like 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40. Okay, each time when you do an iteration in this accumulator, the sum would be added and it would be used for the next iteration. So that's the reason at the end it is going to return you a single value, and now in that single value is called 100 here. So this is what a reducer. Okay, the accumulator means it's like it will be holding. Initially it will be having 0 value, and for in the current value you'll be having 10. So in the first iteration you'll be having 0 plus 10. So now you'll be having 10 in the accumulator. Now in the next iteration 10 plus 20, it will be 30. So 30 will be having the accumulator. So like this accumulator means it will be accumulating the values, and here this is the initial value, this is optional. Okay, and if you provide this, that would be taken in the accumulator. If you not provide it, the first element in the array would be taken as the accumulator value, and the current value will start from the second element. So this is what the reducer mean. Okay, you can get more details in that video. So fine, we are going to write a polyfill for this like this. Okay, firstly we need to write what is our callback function. So let me write our callback function as a sum. Okay, and it is going to take two numbers and it is going to return back this a plus b. So this is our callback function. Okay, fine. Now this is like same as this what we are doing here, like accumulator plus current value. So this is a callback function. Okay, the same we are writing in a function like this. This is our callback function. Now let's start writing the reducer function. So now reduce function will be only for the array. So that's the reason we are writing this, attaching our function to the array prototype. Now array.prototype dot my reduce function. So this is a name we have kept for our reducer function. So usually if you say reduce, it will be executing, it will be running the JavaScript function. So now as we are writing our own polyfill function, we are naming it as my reduce. So name this properly, because this should not be like, you need to include some organization name, your project name, something. This should be unique, so that in future if JavaScript people, if they write the same function, okay, your function will break. So that's the reason name your function uniquely. Now what we are doing, we are attaching our function. You can attach the functions and the variables to the prototype. Okay, now we are, this reduce function should be a function. So that's the reason I'm attaching this function. I'm assigning this function to my reduce. Okay, now to this my function, so we'll be having a callback function comma initial value. Okay, let me show like who is going to call this function. So now this is the main syntax of our reduce function. So now who will be calling this? So let's have an array like this 10 20 30 comma 40, and now I'm not calling reduce, I'm calling my reduce. So the one who wants to use our polyfill needs to use my reduce. It's mean this function. I'm calling this function like this, and now I need to pass a callback function. Okay, what is the callback in our case is sum. So the first parameter I'm passing as a callback as a sum, okay, and the initial value as 0. So let's see, there are a number of edge cases here. So firstly, we will be going with the positive scenario. Later on, we can see the edge cases. We'll handle the edge cases as well, the error handling cases as well. Now I'm having an array. I'm calling my reduce function on this array, and I'm passing sum and 0 values. Sum will be now going into this callback. 0 will be in the initial value. This is the first, like a positive case. Now what I'm going to take is like k, let k is equal to 0, and now let I need to have the accumulator, right? So I'm giving the accumulator to the initial value. Okay, now this is what we have set. Now what we are going to do is we can take for loop or any loop. I'm taking here while loop. So while k is less than, so how this function can access this array? Okay, whenever you are calling my reducer function, okay, you're calling this, okay, with this, right? Now this is the array. Now in this you'll be having this array, okay. In on this array you're calling this function, so that's the reason here this means the current array which is calling this function. So this is an important point we need to understand. In this you'll be having this array. So now what we are doing is k is 0, and k, if it is less than the length of this array, so that many times you are asking to iterate. Okay, and now after iterating, what I need to do is I am writing accumulator is equal to callback. Okay, callback function. So I'm calling this callback function some function, and I'm passing the accumulator as a first value a, and the second value is this of current item k. Okay, now k plus plus. So what I'm doing is like I'm looping a while loop, okay, and checking the length, and I'm going inside here. I'm calling this sum function here, the callback function, and I'm passing two values. I need to pass two values, right? As it is expecting two values, and I need to pass two values. As part of that, I'm passing a, the first value as an accumulator, and the second value as a current item like 0, like a 10, array of 0, 10. This is what I'm passing here. The accumulator in our case, accumulator is 0, and the second, this dot k is 10. So we are passing these two values to this sum. So what happens, it will be returning 0 plus 10. It is going to return back 10, and this return value will be present in the accumulator now. So now we are incrementing this k plus plus, and again we will be verifying this condition. Again we'll go inside here. Now the accumulator value is 10. Okay, it is 10, and now k, this dot k means it is now pointing to the second element because we have incremented the k plus plus. So now k 10 comma 20, we are passing 10 comma 20 here. Now here this is going to return 10 comma 20. It means it is going to return back 30 here. 30 will be returning back. So now in the accumulator, again, you'll be having the 30 value. So like this, we are accumulating the value into this accumulator. So end of the loop, what happens? You need to just return back the accumulator because it holds the value. Some value will be holding here. Fine. So let's console this. So if we console, whatever we are doing, we can check whether it is coming or not. So let me console the value. So fine. So let me run it once again. So yes, if I run it, yes, we got 100. It means our code part is working fine. So now this is a core logic of handling like what is a reducer, writing the polyfill for the reduce. Okay, but we need to write a couple of scenarios, a couple of logic we need to write to handle the edge cases and errors as well. So the first point is like we need to check if the value this, so we know this is an array in this case, but if someone tries to call this function directly, okay, here now we are calling this with this dot array dot my reduce. So if someone calls this method directly, so this becomes null or undefined in this case. So then you need to check if this is equal to null or if this is equal to undefined. Okay, then what you need to do, you should just return back, you need to throw an error. So you can stop at this point, because if it is an array, then only you can do this functionality. If it is not an array, if you're calling this function directly, it doesn't mean you no need to execute this piece of code. So that's the reason, just throw back the error. Okay, type error. You can write the message, the required message, saying that this reduce is called on, you're calling this reduce on null or undefined. So this is what you need to verify. You're calling this reduce on null on undefined. This is the first error case. And now second point is, you need to check if, now you need to, what you need to check, you need to check the callback function. So whatever the callback function we are passing, that is a function or not. So in this case, this is a function. Sum is a function. So now this callback is a function or not, that we need to check. If it is not a function, okay, which returns some value, if it is not a function, if it is just a value, okay, then you can return back here. So for that we are checking whether callback, so it is a positive value, so it is not a null value, so like null or undefined. So that's a, I'm checking this, not callback. Okay, and now this type of callback, okay, the type of callback should not, if it is not equal to function, okay, it means the callback is not the right value. Okay, we are checking the callback is a real function or not. Okay, if it is not equal to function, okay, then we need to throw again the some error, some type error. Okay, this is how you can throw your custom errors, throw new and type error. So you need to say something like callback should be a function. So the callback is not function. Okay, or you can say it should be a function. So if it is not a function, executing the rest of the code is meaningless. So these are the two first basic error checks. So later on you can have one more check. So before understanding this check, let me write one point. So reduce, okay, if you call reduce function on empty array, okay, if the array is empty and you're not passing the initial value, okay, in this case you need to show an error. So usually in the, as I shown here in the example also, if you have this as empty array, okay, if though you have an empty array and you're not passing an empty initial value, then you will be getting an error here in the main reduce function as well, in the JavaScript reduce function. So we are adding that condition. We are checking whether the given array is empty or not. How we can check that? So if this dot length, okay, we are checking if it is empty or not. Okay, not means why I'm kept not is, so if this dot length is a positive value, okay, that's fine. If it is a zero, okay, zero is a falsy value in JavaScript. If it is zero, not zero means that is true. It means you're going inside this array is empty. Okay, that's how we are checking the array is empty or not. Okay, this is how you're checking. Now if the array is empty and if you're not passing the initial value, okay, it means someone is calling this function like this, reduce my reduce. So you're calling, someone is calling like this, okay, and if they are not passing the initial value, so if you pass zero, that's fine. If you're not passing this value, if someone do like this, so you need to throw an error. This is not correct. So even if you use a normal JavaScript reduce function also, it will be throwing an error. The same we are trying to handle here. So you're giving, if someone gives an empty array and if they are not passing an initial value, so you need to check one more condition, the arguments dot length. Arguments means now these one, so sum comma zero. If someone calls a sum comma zero, these are arguments, and if its length is zero, if sorry, if length is less than 2, it means you, that person is sending only the callback. They are not sending the initial value. This is how you need to understand the initial value is sent or not. Arguments dot length, if it is equal to 2, it means the person is also sending the initial value. If it is less than 2, it means you have only one callback function. In that case, the array is empty and the initial value is not there. So this is a check you are going to do. And now you can throw this, throw the, again you can throw the error, relevant error. So you can say that reduce on empty array and with no initial value will throw an error, is not accepted, something, whatever the relevant error you feel, you can keep that. So this is one of the case, and there is one more case. So we have also seen this case, and we need to understand there is one more case. So let's try to put it up. So now this case is like you are invoking, so invoke the reduce function on empty array, and if you pass initial value, so it means you're calling an empty array, okay, with initial value. Okay, then what should do? Okay, now you need to check, yes, this is an initial value, you have checked here, and you're passing an initial value. So it means we are going to write one more else if. Here what we need to do is we are not handling any error here. Here we are need to return back the initial value. Here what is happening is someone is calling our reduce function like this. They are sending the sum function with the initial value. So whatever the initial value. Now what you need to do, you need to just return back the initial value. You no need to do any of the operations on this because you have only a single value called initial value here. So just return back this initial value. So for that, what we are checking is we are checking the arguments. If this arguments dot length is triple equal to 2, if this is true, arguments dot length. Okay, let me comment this one. Okay, if this is true, then what we need to do, we need to just return back the initial value. You don't need to worry about what it is. Okay, just return back the initial value. It means now you're calling your myReduce function on an empty array and you're passing the initial value. In the first case, you're calling on empty array and you're not passing initial stage. This is an error case. This is not an error case. You just need to return back the initial value. That one also you have handled. Okay, so this is the that condition. So now we have handled all couple of error scenarios as well. Now we need to understand one more scenario. That scenario is you're calling a function, okay, and this may pass initial value or may not pass the initial value, but you need to understand if you pass the initial value. So let me show something here. So I will write the condition here so that we can write easily. If initial value is passed, so it means now 0 is passed. Okay, now accumulator becomes, it is equal to that initial value. Okay, that is what happening here. And what happens the current value? Current value becomes the array first element. It becomes a array of 0. If you pass the initial value, okay, that is what happening here. You no need to handle that scenario here. But if initial value is not passed, so then what should be happen? The accumulator should become, accumulator needs to take the array of 0 value and the current value will begin from the second value, that is array of 1. This is what we need to handle. This is one more scenario. This is we need to handle for sure. Okay, now first case we are handling, now second case we need to handle. So it means the accumulator value should become array of 0 if the initial value is not passed. Okay, it means here we need to write that core part. So now here what I'm writing is I'm checking arguments dot length. So if this is less than 2, what it means? It means the person is not calling this with the initial value. He's not calling with the initial value. Okay. Then you need to return back the first item. This should be assigned to the first item. Then now you will be giving this of k. Okay. If the array length is greater than 2, it means the person is passing the initial value. Then initial value would be assigned. If that is less than 2, it means he is not passing the initial value. Then you are going to assign the first element of the array here. So this is how you need to handle this scenario. Okay. Hope you understand this video. So I have explained all the scenarios as well. The null condition. So if you're calling with this, if you need to check what this is a null or undefined. If that is the case, you can stop here. You need to check whether the callback function is a function or not. You can stop here. You need to check whether the empty array and the initial value is not passed. This will be handled. If only initial value is passed, here you can stop the execution. Okay. If you're passing all the valid values and initial value is not passed, so this scenario is handled at this logic. Okay, this is a polyfill for the reduce function in the JavaScript. Hope I have covered all the scenarios. Hope you understand the video as well. So this is our rethinking UI channel. So where I will be doing the videos on JavaScript, React.js, JavaScript interview questions, lot of stuff on the front end. Okay, try to check this channel. If you like the videos, try to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.